My colleague, Reverend Karen Herring, shared an amazing picture on her blog, Threshold Times, from the James Webb Space Telescope. Perhaps you saw it. It was released this past week. It shows two milky white swirls whose tails go into fiery red, surrounded by the darkness of space, punctuated with little diamond lights of stars. According to NASA, the image shows a merging galaxy pair cavort. Galaxies cavorting. The two galaxies are in the process of merging, and as a result have a chaotic, disturbed shape. It's stunning and amazing to think, one, we exist in a universe where whole galaxies can cavort. And second, we can capture them doing it in photographs. I mean, that's like, whoa. Well, our ability to peer deep into space, to see two galaxies cavort and merge, is a relatively new development. Our ability to wonder, to imagine, to be curious about such things has been with us since ancient times. When I look up to your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the multitude of stars, mused the psalmist, long before the invention of telescopes or observatories. What is man that you love him, and woman that you gladden her heart? Yet you made us almost like the angels and crowned us with understanding. I love this psalm because it captures the paradox we experience through our human capacity to wonder. On the one hand, wonder brings home just how small, how truly insignificant we are. Only one of many species living on this little planet in the vastness of the universe. And yet it is our ability to wonder, our capacity for awe and curiosity and imagination that makes us different than all the other species and life forms we know. Almost like angels, we can change, manipulate, conquer, even destroy the world around us. We have been given a great power, which we sometimes employ in creative and imaginative ways, and sometimes in terrible and destructive ways. Karen used the picture of the cavorting galaxies for a writing prompt. How can we keep wonder alive even when our lives and our world become chaotic or disturbed by change, large and small? What can we learn from the stardust within and beyond us? Isn't that a great question? The question of our time, the question of the season. Winter, with its longer nights and colder weather, already requires more effort to get up and go outside, and the pandemic has ratcheted that up a few notches. With the colder weather and more time indoors, the cases are starting to go up again. And I, for one, have that niggling, foreboding sense of déjà vu. I know this script, and I am not looking forward to it. And while we got through the election season okay, the chaos sown by hate and fear, by economic worry, and by violence and war, even if it's oceans away, is cavorting around us. And it is very tempting to just hunker down and stay inside until it all passes. But the ancient stories of this season, whether Hanukkah or Christmas or the solstice, invite us to turn to wonder rather than fear. They invite us to open ourselves to the miracle of light when there should be only darkness, to the invitation for hope when there should be no hope, to life and the possibility of peace and the arrival of a child in the middle of nowhere to a couple of nobodies. All of these invitations to wonder arrive over and against forces much more powerful, empires and armies and even nature itself. As Jan Richardson wrote in her introduction to her online Advent retreat, the season of Advent asks us to open ourselves to what appears on the horizon, seeking entry into our life. Even so, Advent gives me pause as it prompts me to wonder what it means to welcome what comes, to respond to what shows up, especially when it is unexpected, uninvited, and unsought. I'm not talking about giving consent to the cruelty, the violence, the agony the world keeps offering us. But, she writes, I think of the characters who travel with us in Advent and how they have a remarkable openness to going where they never imagined, a beautiful willingness that is anything but subservient or meek, like Mary in the moment when the archangel arrives with his wild invitation, and how something in her heart turns in response to Gabriel's words, opens towards what she never imagined, but inspires her to say this astonishing yes, to consent to more than she could possibly know in that moment. I think of Joseph and his own annunciation that arrives in his dreaming. I think of Elizabeth, of Zechariah, of Magi and shepherds, and how each says their own yes that opens a door and a world. In this season, what would it mean to open our hearts like that? Through whatever lens we choose to view the world, through science or story, through faith or human community or the natural world, wonder is there if we open our hearts as well as our minds. And wonder, it leads to gratitude and to humility. How can we not be moved to these as we gaze upon the moon and the stars, as we consider the diversity and variety of the plants and the animals and the forests and the mountains and deserts and prairies and oceans and rivers and streams and lakes, or the wonder of us, the diversity and the variety of our humanity, all the colors and shapes and sizes we come in, and how each one of us is a unique personality, a unique expression of humanity, of the sacred and the divine. Or our capacity to think and imagine and create, to recognize and create beauty, to experience joy and possibility, to love and be loved. Pondering these things can take my breath away. As the Quaker hymn says, how can I keep from singing? I've done several retreats and trainings through the Center for Courage and Renewal, which was founded by the Quaker teacher and writer Parker Palmer. In all of their groups, they use a set of guidelines created by Palmer called Circle of Trust Touchstones. And you may be familiar with them because Dolores and I have adapted them often for use in groups here. And my favorite touchstone, when the going gets rough, turn to wonder. If you feel judgmental or defensive, ask yourself, I wonder what brought them to this belief. I wonder what they're feeling right now. I wonder what my reaction teaches me about myself. Set aside judgment to listen to others and to yourself more deeply. I learned from this touchstone that wonder is a spiritual practice as well as a feeling. We can choose it. Choosing wonder, curiosity, and imagination invite us not only to appreciate the natural world around us, but to love our neighbors better. To learn to lean into our differences and conflicts and search for common ground rather than fortify the barriers of us versus them and retreat further into the righteousness of certainty. As Valerie Kaur said so beautifully in See No Stranger, wonder is where love begins. To wonder is to cultivate a sense of awe and openness to others' thoughts and experiences, their pain, their wants and needs. It is to look upon the face of anyone or anything and say, "You are a part of me I do not yet know." The stardust within me reaching out to the stardust within you. Galaxies cavort. Valerie Kaur touches upon what I believe is the most heartbreaking and frightening aspects of the chaotic and disturbing times we are in, with their changes big and small. The growing lack of wonder, of curiosity and imagination about each other and the world we live in. As she says, the failure to wonder is the beginning of violence. Once people start wondering about others, once they no longer see others as part of them, they disable their instinct for empathy, and once they lose empathy, they can do anything to them or allow anything to be done to them. Entire institutions are built upon this. And they depend upon our failure of imagination. This is the heart of the struggle for the soul of our country, I think. Whether we will be a people who wonder about each other out of love or who fail to do so out of fear. It says something that this country elected a narcissist for a president for a term. It is a reflection of where we've been. That hate and fear and despair grew to such a point that that's what happened. And we are still dealing with this chaotic fallout. The lack of wonder for our world contributes to the environmental crisis we are in. In his amazing book, Inciting Joy, Ross Gay writes, "As is becoming more evident by the day, when we refuse to celebrate the earth's kindness, we prepare the ground for the earth to refuse kindness to us." Love is one of those words I know that can easily lose its meaning. It can be dismissed as something warm and fuzzy, as weak, as giving in, as sacrificing ourselves to others. But love, as I understand it in religious community, is a discipline, a practice, a way of orienting ourselves to one another and to the world. Love is about being accountable, not just to the people we know and love, who are like us, but accountable to all we have been given in this life and in this world. Valerie Kaur is right that wonder is where love begins. And when we lose our sense of wonder, we make ourselves smaller and meaner, not bigger and more powerful. We make ourselves less human and less humane. How can we keep wonder alive even when our lives and our world become chaotic or disturbed by change, large or small? What can we learn from the stardust within and beyond us? This stardust that we are made of, that our planet is made of, and every living thing upon it, is at once ancient and constantly born anew. Galaxies cavort and merge somewhere in this vast universe, while on Earth the seasons progress as light and darkness take their turn to shorten and lengthen. A new life enters somewhere with all its possibilities, even as another exits, leaving both grief and gratitude in its fiery or gentle tale. When the going gets rough, join with the psalmist and the ancient shepherds on the hill, with a mother or father or parent holding their infant in their arms, with the scientists of all stripes, gazing through their telescopes or their microscopes, turn to wonder. Turn to where love begins.